Let's look at an example of a life insurance company like LIC. Now, if you're a young couple with a kid which is, let's say, 5 or 6 months old, a very appropriate product for you might be a child plan. Okay, a child plan is a plan which matures when the child becomes 18 or 20 years old, and that money that you get at that age can be used for the further education of the child, or probably finances further studies. At the same time, I was talking about the other life cycle stage where it's a retired family. A man and a woman who have worked all their life probably, and their children have settled down, and now they are living a retired life. And at that stage, probably some retirement plans or plans that can help them in planning they have a corpus which they would like to invest and draw a pension from it in a monthly format. That kind of a product might suit. So as you can see, at different stages of life cycle, the consumer's needs are different. Okay, and therefore life cycle in the stage lifestyle. Another thing is lifestyle itself. So lifestyle, to give an example, a product like Fitbit, or a product which measures the number of steps that you take every day, measures the number of calories that you burn every day. Now that's a very ideal product for somebody who is leading or who intends to lead a very, very active and healthy lifestyle. Okay. Now for somebody else, for him that is not very important. That product might not have that much value. Okay. So lifestyle of the personality, again, I think personality is something that we will again discuss in segmentation in the next chapter. But personality, again, also a very important driver of what drives consumers to behave or buy products. Okay, consumers could be adventure loving, consumers could be outgoing, outgoing not just in terms of personality, but outgoing in terms of outdoorsy, liking outdoors, going on hikes, going on long drives, So all these things have been carefully captured by marketeers, and they have been integrated into their marketing plans. Okay. The last thing that I want to talk to you about is perception. Now, what is perception? Okay, perception is consumers make a meaningful representation of their outside world based on their own internal values and their own belief systems. Okay, and they make a meaningful picture of the world. Everybody is seeing a world through his or her own lens, and that lens is the lens of perception. Okay, so let me give a couple of examples to set the context. Let's say that in a classroom, you typically have people who sit in the front row. Okay, the first row, the second row, and then you have typical people who sit at the back of the class, or back benchers as they are called. So what is the perception? What do you think is the perception of students sitting in the front row and students sitting in the back row? Okay, and typically you will say that, okay, the students sitting in the front row, they are very studious and they are very interested in studies, and the students who are sitting at the back end of the class, probably less interested in studies, and probably just want to want the lecture to get over with. However, there is a perception, may or may not be true. Okay, in fact, one of the studies conducted by Harvard, they actually found out that a person sitting in the last row is more likely to become a CEO than a person sitting in the front row, right? So again, like I was saying, this thing that I said, is a perception. What is a perception? Let's say you are riding a vehicle on the road and you see a traffic cop, okay, and the traffic cop stops you. What is the immediate perception that you have in your mind, okay, of this traffic cop, or the kind of interaction that you're going to have? Okay, your immediate interaction is, okay, this guy is a corrupt guy and he'll now try to take some money out of me. Okay, so this perception has formed because of what you've watched over the years, your own experience, probably what you heard from your friends or your family, or whatever you've seen in the movies, etc. So this perception, again, it may be or may not be true. Our perception of the cops is sum total of the various experiences that we have with cops. Whereas this cop that stopped you on the road might be a perfectly honest cop and actually might let you go without any fine whatsoever, and maybe just a warning. But we form these perceptions because of what another last example I want to give you is about Chinese products. Okay, now the typical experience that you will have about Chinese products is that, oh, these are low quality, they won't last long. Okay, they are cheap products, but they won't last long. Again, that's a perception, may or may not be true, right? We form these perceptions basis a lot of things because our own interaction with that product. Now, why is this? I gave so many examples about perception. The perception of your brand is very, very important to the marketeer. Okay, so if you are, to give an example very specifically, if you are perceived as a brand which is very, very expensive and does not give value for money, the perception is the reality. Okay, if you are perceived as a product or as a brand which is not long lasting or which is not durable or which is not reliable, and that perception is there with the consumers, it may be true, it may not be true, but whatever the consumers perceive, okay, we have to understand that that is the reality. Okay, and then the effort has to be done by the marketeer to change that perception. Okay, one of the problems that Ford had, of course Ford doesn't operate in India anymore, but one of the biggest problems that Ford had was that Ford was perceived as a car which would take a lot of the servicing of the car would be very, very expensive. So you bought a Ford car, very good, but beware, servicing me, is going to cost you a lot as compared to, something like a Maruti, which is very, very easy to maintain, or it doesn't cost much to maintain, let me put it that way. So in order to attack that, Ford made a variety of commercials in order to bring home the point that, your perception, people form perceptions, and that perception might not be right, and the 3-year maintenance of a Ford vehicle is only XYZ rupees. I'll put the link of these Ford ads in the description so that you can see these ads. So the last point I want to make here is marketeers need to be aware of all these 3 factors: the cultural, social, and the personal factors. About perception, very importantly, I must share with you is that the perception of your brand, whatever it is in the minds of the consumer, it is important, A, that you know what the perception is, and B, even if it is not the way you think it should be, it is your job and it's your responsibility, therefore, to change it, to correct it, and to communicate with the consumers. So this is about consumer behavior. There is also one more topic about what are the 5 steps that the consumer goes through when he actually makes a purchase decision. This is something we will take it up in our next session. Thank you so much.